A retired Marine walked into my shop last month ready to sign on a $54,000 truck with a turbo, a 10-speed automatic, and a warranty that would expire right around the time the real bills started. I asked him one question. Did he want a truck that impressed his neighbors, or one that would still be running when his grandkids borrowed it? He put the pen down. After more than 2 decades under the hood, I can tell you the best trucks for guys living on a fixed income aren't new. They're sitting on used lots right now, ignored. Let's count them down. Number 3. The 2005 to 2015 Toyota Tacoma with the 4.0-liter V6. I know, everybody and their cousin already knows the Tacoma holds its value. That's exactly the point most people miss. They see the resale price and assume the truck is overpriced. Then they walk right past the one configuration that makes the most sense for somebody who wants to spend almost nothing keeping it on the road. The one GRFE 4.0-liter V6. In these trucks is the same naturally aspirated engine family Toyota bolted into the 4Runner and the FJ Cruiser. It produces 236 horsepower, runs a timing chain instead of a belt, and has no turbo to grenade and no direct injection to clog the intake valves with carbon. This is port injection, the kind of simple engineering that lets an engine cross 250,000 miles on nothing but oil and a water pump. I have personally serviced these past 280,000 miles, still pulling clean compression numbers across all 6 cylinders. The 5-speed automatic paired to it is a proven unit, smooth and almost impossible to kill when you change the fluid on schedule. Here is the part that matters for a veteran on a budget. Repair costs are low because Toyota parts are everywhere, and the design is straightforward. A water pump runs about $350 installed. An alternator is around $300. There is no German complexity hiding behind that badge, just a truck that was overbuilt on purpose. A 2008 to 2011 Tacoma with the V6 and 130,000 to 160,000 miles runs $14,000 to $19,000, depending on the cab configuration and rust history. That sounds like a lot until you understand these things routinely run another decade, and the resale floor under them is so high that if you ever do sell, you get most of your money back. Let me put that in plain terms. Most trucks are an expense you slowly flush down the drain. A Tacoma is closer to a savings account that happens to haul plywood. I had a customer, a Vietnam-era vet, who bought a 2010 Tacoma with 95,000 miles for $17,000 6 years ago. He came back last spring wanting to know what it was worth because his daughter wanted to buy it from him. It was still worth $13,000 with 180,000 miles on the clock. He had spent maybe $1,200 in repairs the entire time he owned it. You do not find that kind of math anywhere else in the truck market. When you go shopping, the single most important thing you do is get underneath it and inspect the frame. Toyota issued frame rust recalls on certain model years, and a truck from the Salt Belt can have serious corrosion even when the body looks clean. If you see heavy scaling or flaking, walk away no matter how good the engine sounds. A frame is not a thing you fix on a budget. Also check the lower ball joints, a known wear item, about $400 for the pair. And listen for any clunking from the rear leaf springs over bumps. Pop the hood and look at the valve cover gaskets for oil seepage, which is common on higher mileage examples, but cheap to address and good leverage when you negotiate. This is the truck for a veteran who wants something he will literally never have to think about. It just works, and the only real downside is that everyone already knows it, which keeps the buy-in price honest rather than cheap. But this next one, almost nobody is cross-shopping, and that is exactly where the deals hide. Number 2. The 2009 to 2014 Ford F-150 with the 5-liter Coyote V8. This is where I start losing the Toyota purists, so hear me out. Everybody chasing reliability fixates on Japanese badges and skips right over one of the most overbuilt American engines of the last 20 years. The 5-liter Coyote V8 that Ford dropped into the F-150 starting in 2011 is a dual overhead cam, naturally aspirated V8 producing 360 horsepower. No turbo. That distinction matters enormously because the EcoBoost turbo trucks parked right next to it carry real long-term costs that this engine simply does not have. Turbochargers add heat, complexity, and components that wear. And when a turbo lets go on a high-mileage truck, you are looking at a repair that can run into the thousands. The Coyote sidesteps all of that. It runs timing chains, makes its power through good old-fashioned displacement without forced induction, and has a documented track record of crossing 250,000 to 300,000 miles with basic maintenance. I have customers running these as work trucks who are well past 200,000 miles on the original engine and transmission, having done nothing but oil changes, plugs, and one set of coils. One of them is a former Air Force crew chief who hauls a landscaping trailer 6 days a week. He told me he bought the Coyote specifically because he spent 20 years around turbines and knew exactly what heat and boost do to metal over time. He wanted naturally aspirated, and he wanted iron block durability bolted to something he could get parts for in any town in America. The Coyote checks both boxes. The reason these are a bargain is pure perception. Buyers either chase the newest EcoBoost for the fuel economy on the window sticker, or they assume any used domestic truck is a gamble. Meanwhile, a 2012 to 2014 F-150 XLT with the 5.0 and 120,000 to 150,000 miles sits there at $15,000 to $20,000. Thousands less than a comparable Tundra of the same vintage, which will run you $22,000 to $28,000 for similar mileage. You are getting a full-size V8 truck that tows around 10,000 pounds, seats your whole family in a Super Crew cab, and has the cheapest parts availability of any truck on the road because Ford built millions of them. A water pump is about $400 installed. Brake pads all around run around $300. An alternator is roughly $250. There is an entire aftermarket ecosystem built around this engine, which means you are never held hostage by a dealer parts counter. When you inspect one, pull the oil cap and look for sludge, because a Coyote run on cheap oil and stretched intervals is the one way to hurt it. These engines prefer clean oil, and they punish neglect. Check the cam phasers by listening for a rattle on cold startup that lasts more than a second or two. It is a known issue on higher mileage examples, and it is worth negotiating on. It is rarely a death sentence, but it does tell you how the truck was maintained. Drive it, and feel for any harsh shifting from the 6-speed automatic between gears, since a healthy one shifts smoothly and predictably. And as always on any truck from the north, get underneath and look hard at the frame and brake lines for rust, because the metal corrodes long before the powertrain wears out. This is the truck for a veteran who wants a real American V8, full-size capability, and parts he can find at any store in the country for next to nothing. But as solid as the Ford is, the truck at number 1 is the one that makes the math on everything else look foolish. Number 1. The Chevrolet Silverado 1500 from 1999 to 2006 with the 5.3-liter V8 Vortec. This is the one I put at the top, and the pricing makes absolutely no sense for what you are actually getting. I am going deepest here because if a veteran asked me to point at the single cheapest truck to own that will still outlast trucks costing 3 times as much, this is where my finger lands every time. The 5.3-liter Vortec in these trucks is built on General Motors' LS architecture. And if you know anything about engines, you know the LS is one of the most proven, most durable designs in automotive history. It is a pushrod, small block, V8, which means fewer moving parts than any overhead cam engine on the planet. No complicated multicam setup, no timing belt, just a single short timing chain that almost never fails under normal maintenance. This is engineering stripped down to exactly what it needs to be. And that simplicity is precisely why it lasts. Every component you do not have is a component that cannot fail on you. The documented longevity on these is almost hard to believe. On owner forums, there are well-recorded cases of the 5.3-liter Vortec crossing 400,000 and even 500,000 miles on nothing more than oil changes, a water pump, and the occasional alternator. These are not fairy tales. They are real numbers from a motor General Motors refined over decades and produced in enormous volume, which is also why the engineering quirks are so well understood at this point. There is no mystery left in this engine. Every shop in America has worked on one. Every part is on the shelf, and anybody who can turn a wrench can keep one alive. I had a customer, a retired Army mechanic, who bought a 2004 Silverado with 140,000 miles for $6,000. He has passed 230,000 miles now, and the only real money he has put into it was a fuel pump and a set of wheel bearings. His exact words to me were that the truck refuses to die, and he has stopped trying to kill it. Here is why the price is so low, and it is the opportunity. These trucks are old enough that the average buyer assumes they are worn out, and the styling does not turn heads the way a new truck does. Nobody is posting these on social media. Nobody is bragging about them. But a 2002 to 2006 Silverado 1,500 with the 5.3 and 150,000 to 200,000 miles sells for $6,000 to $10,000. At that price, you are buying a full-size V8 pickup that tows comfortably, hauls anything you ask of it, and costs almost nothing to keep running. Parts are everywhere, and they are dirt cheap because General Motors made millions of these. A water pump runs about $300 installed, an alternator around $250, and brake pads for all four corners about $280. Some of the lowest parts costs of any truck on the road. For a veteran on a fixed income, that combination of low buy-in and low upkeep is unbeatable. You are not financing anything. You are not making a payment. You own the thing outright, and it costs you a few $100s a year to keep on the road. The one weak spot worth knowing involves the later models with active fuel management, which on certain engines from 2007 onward could cause oil consumption. But in the range from 1999 to 2006, you are largely clear of that headache, which is part of why I steer budget buyers toward these specific years. When you go shopping, the first thing you do is check the oil and look for sludge on the cap, because these need consistent oil changes to hit those legendary mileage numbers, and a neglected one is not worth your time. Second, get under the truck and inspect the frame, rocker panels, and cab corners for rust, because on these, the body will rot out long before the engine quits, especially on trucks from northern states. The drivetrain is nearly immortal, but sheet metal is not. Third, feel for a shudder from the transmission between 40 and 60 miles per hour, which a fluid and filter service fixes for around $250 in most cases. Fourth, engage the four-wheel drive at low speed in a parking lot and listen for clunking, since the transfer case actuator is a known wear item that runs about $350 to replace. Who should buy this truck? Any veteran who wants maximum capability for the absolute minimum money, who would rather spend his retirement check on his grandkids than on a truck payment, and who is smart enough to ignore what the market thinks is cool and buy what actually lasts. So there they are. 3 pickups the market forgot but your mechanic did not. The Toyota Tacoma with the bulletproof 4.0-liter V6 that holds its value while the frame gives out long before the engine ever does. The Ford F-150 with the naturally aspirated 5.0-liter Coyote 5.8 that quietly outlasts the turbo trucks everyone else is chasing. And the Chevy Silverado 1500 with the 5.3-liter Vortec, the documented 500,000-mile workhorse you can buy today for the price of a used sedan. You now know 3 trucks you can buy for almost nothing that will keep running long after the fancy new ones are sitting in a repair bay. The next time a salesman tries to steer you toward a $50,000 truck with a turbo and a payment book, you will know better. If this kind of straight talk helps you shop smarter, hit subscribe. I have more videos coming on the vehicles dealerships push versus the ones that actually make sense, like if it helped. Drive safe. Take care of your truck and it will take care of you. I will see you in the next one.